Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Joanne Smedley, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Warrant Officer Class 1 Joanne Davey. Today marks the 80th anniversary of the beginning of the Siege of Tobruk. At the beginning of 1941, Italian forces were in full retreat across North Africa. The situation soon changed in February when the German Afrika Korps, under Lieutenant General Erwin Rommel, arrived. Towards the end of March, the revitalised Axis force counterattacked, throwing back the Allies in disarray. To obstruct Rommel's advance into Egypt, the port town of Tobruk had to be held at all costs. The Australian 9th Division formed the core of Tobruk's defence. Commanded by Major General Leslie Morshead, the 9th Division, supported by the 7th Division's 18th Brigade and an assortment of British and Indian troops, endured much hardship, becoming known as the Rats of Tobruk for their tenacity and determination. Those who held Tobruk in 1941 remember the Easter Battle, the salient Hill 209 and the red and blue lines. Then came the long hot summer, heat, dirt, flies and Khamsin. The men endured panzer attacks, near constant shelling and continuous air raids. Their world became one of mines, barbed wire and concrete perimeter posts, night raids and constant patrolling. In August and September, relief came for the weary diggers, who were replaced by British, Polish and Czech troops. Still, some Australians remained within the perimeter as the siege continued. In early December, Rommel was forced to quit Tobruk and retreat westwards. Tobruk remained a thorn in Rommel's side and prevented his advance into Egypt that year. The Australians who had formed the core of Tobruk's defence suffered the heaviest losses. From April to the end of October, casualties totalled 3,349, including 749 dead. Today, we thank them for their service and we acknowledge all those who are here with us today to commemorate this anniversary. We warmly welcome Mr. John King, President, Return and Services League of Australia, ACT branch. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria, and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by visitors to the memorial. If you are able, please stand and join in the singing of the national anthem. Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are one and free. We've golden soil and wealth for toil. Our home is girt by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty, rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains that let us sing, advance Australia fair. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Corporal Geoffrey Vigors Hewitt. Geoffrey Hewitt was born in Glen Innes, New South Wales on the 23rd of February 1914, the third son of William and Nina Hewitt. Growing up alongside his three brothers and sisters, young Geoff attended the New England Grammar School of Glen Innes before going to work as a jackaroo and a farmer. Geoff Hewitt enlisted in the militia in May 1939 and after a year of service was a sergeant in the 35th Battalion. On the 14th of May 1940, he enlisted in the 2nd Australian Imperial Force and was allotted to the newly formed 2nd 13th Battalion with the rank of Acting Corporal. Part of the 20th Brigade of the newly formed 7th Division, the 2nd 13th Battalion completed basic training at Ingleburn before marching to Bathurst Army Camp. Embarking for overseas service in October 1940, the battalion sailed from Sydney Harbour for the Middle East, transferring to the newly formed 9th Division en route to Egypt. During the sea voyage, Hewitt was evacuated to hospital in Bombay and then spent time in the ship's hospital with mumps. His rank of corporal was confirmed, and in December he was promoted to acting sergeant, reverting to corporal in February. Early in March 1941, he and the rest of the 9th Division moved into Cyrenaica, today's Libya, replacing the 6th Division, which was going to Greece. The Axis were also reorganising their forces. German forces landed at Tripoli, bolstering the Italians, and advanced east. The British were forced to evacuate Benghazi and fall back to Tobruk. The 2nd 13th Battalion covered the withdrawal of the rest of the division, and by the 9th of April had joined them at Tobruk. Geoff and his comrades helped to defend Tobruk for 8 months, the only Australian battalion to see out the entire siege. It was planned that the battalion would evacuate in October, but this was delayed when its convoy was forced to turn back from enemy air attack. Sadly, Corporal Geoff Hewitt would not leave Tobruk when the siege lifted in December. He was killed in action on the 25th of June 1941. Signaller C.S. Anderson reported on the events surrounding his death. Geoff had taken his night patrol out and they had crept up very close to the enemy lines when they were seen by the light of a sudden flare. The enemy was what called fixed lines machine guns, which are fired blindly during the night. The enemy put over mortars and one of these lines opened up close behind the patrol. 2 men were wounded by the mortars and the patrol had to get back at all costs. Geoff knelt up with a Bren gun and kept the enemy down from their machine guns sufficiently long enough for all his men to get away. It was a piece of shrapnel from a mortar which hit Geoff. When things quietened down, his patrol went back and got him. He is buried in the AIF cemetery at Tobruk. It was the action of an extremely brave and unselfish man. Today, Geoff Hewitt's remains lie in Tobruk War Cemetery, beneath the epitaph chosen by his grieving family. He gave his life that truth, honour and justice might prevail. His name is listed on the roll of honour on my left, amongst almost 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Corporal Geoffrey Vigors Hewitt, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and invite you to move outside for the 41-gun salute to honour His Royal Highness Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, who died yesterday. The salute is taking place outside Parliament House, across the lake, and commences at 5 p.m.